welcome everyone back to the Nightlife Podcast. My name is Kevin. I'm one of your co-hosts. I'm joined by...
What's up? It's Dan here. Welcome back, guys.
And our special guest, Jack. He is back. Say what's up, Jack.
Can't get rid of me yet.
All right. So, well, guys, welcome to episode 2. We made it to episode 2. And for everyone who took a nice little listen or viewed the podcast on YouTube for episode 1, thank you so much. It means a lot. Even though we are still growing, we are trying to produce some really fun and cool, amazing quality podcasts for you guys. Again, it's just a conversation. But Dan, Jack, guess what?
What's that?
We are on Apple Podcasts now, and I'll be linking it down in the show notes. And if you're on YouTube, in the description, if you watch the the video podcast of this podcast. So yeah, if you search up The Nightlife Podcast on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, and on YouTube, you'll find us there. But
We are just growing. Look at that.
yeah, we're growing. Actually, we did pretty well analytic-wise if I was kind of checking on Anchor, and I was kind of happy. I mean, a lot of people at work were like, dude, your podcast is actually pretty amazing. And I was like, oh, thanks, man. Super happy about that.
I want to give a quick congratulations. I feel like this is such an accomplishment. Like, we talked about it. We did episode 1, and it was like, yeah, we did episode 1, but we're actually back for episode 2. It's something we're actually sticking with. So
Yeah, and
pretty exciting.
I'm pretty excited about it. This episode is going to be a pretty nice one. We'll kind of get into the main topic of this episode later on. But guys, how's work been?
Eh.
Yeah.
Yeah, could be better.
Could be better. Are we still understaffed?
I mean, kind of.
Yeah,
Ooh,
Yeah.
that's unfortunate.
even with the travelers, we're always finding ourselves at least one nurse short
See, that's the
every
thing.
night.
Like my hospital got travelers. I think I brought this up in the last podcast, but we have travelers, but they can't take assignments. Like their contract says you can't take
Oh
assignments.
yeah, they're just pretty much floating. Yeah.
They're expensive float nurses, and that's what the cool thing is. I mean, not the cool thing, but it's a weird way where it's like, okay, everyone has their little assignments, but sometimes we're still short on staff nurses and like techs as well.
No. We have plenty of them. Like every time I come to work, there's literally a new face, and I walk in, I'm like, well, who's this person? I don't know them. So I feel like we have plenty of people, and it's not as bad as it was. Like acuity bounces back and forth, but I feel like there's like less people coming in than we had in the recent months, and it still feels like we're short.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're not walking into 5 and 6 patient assignments, but we're still running around all night.
yeah. I mean, hey, 5-6 patient assignments. What's that in California? There's patient ratios. It's like no,
Yeah, lucky you.
no,
Yeah,
actually,
not that you would know.
no. Our nurses go over ratio all the time, especially when we're understaffed. Especially since these travel nurses they can't take assignments, like I said. But we're still short on like staff nurses. Sometimes we gotta like the charge has to take a couple patients. If we get like holds, or like we have ICU holds, or like any type of telemetry holds, they have to go over ratio a lot of the times, which is it sucks and it's stressful, and it sucks that we have these other nurses here who are qualified to take assignments, but they contractually, like their contract says they can't. So that's the shitty part about that. But overall, I mean, in California, I feel like COVID is kind of chilling out a little bit. How's it over there for you guys?
No, I feel like that's the case.
Yeah, it's not as bad as it was.
That's pretty nice. I mean, I feel like for us, since we have nicer weather, it's like what, 60, 70 degrees right now, and it's like nighttime. We're kind of enjoying it. So, but I mean, let's kind of dive into the fun little topic of today's podcast, and that's going to be story time. I think I mentioned that earlier in the last podcast that we might do a story time, and well, if you guys are ready for it, I mean, it'll be fun to tell some cool stories, the stuff we've been through. Some of us,
And even if you're not ready for it,
yeah, I mean, hey, it's gonna be an emotional roller coaster, which is gonna be crazy. What's it called? There's just gonna be, a lot of things that we've been through, that we've kind of experiences as healthcare professionals, whether it's on the field or in hospital, acute care facility, which is where all of us kind of work at. So, but yeah, I mean, Dan, if you want to start us off with it.
I don't know what kind of stories are we looking for
I
tonight?
don't know, just anything,
You
that
want to
that
go like the happy-go-lucky, or you want to go like the crazy or the sad? Let's stay away from the sad today.
I feel like
Yeah, try to.
but doesn't drama bring the best ratings? I don't know. That's what TV.
Yeah, but trauma doesn't have to be sad.
Not my basically. I don't know anything you want to say. Anything? What? Actually, let's talk about. I dog. I'm out of here because that's an inside joke between
Oh,
us. But you can tell the audience that.
yeah. I mean, yeah, that's a pretty interesting one. I think Jack, were you there for that night? The
I
overdose
don't
I
think
got.
so.
Okay, so I had a patient. They didn't even come in technically. So we had somebody ran up to the desk from triage, and they're like, "Hey guys, like there's somebody overdosed in the back of a car. We need some help." So I run out with the charge nurse. We go to take a look. Somebody's bringing a stretcher and stuff. And the number of times I've ended up having to pull somebody out of somebody's car who was overdosed is
Jesus
quite a
Christ!
bit, honestly. Um,
More than you would think.
Oh, it
a
happens all the
lot
time.
more than you would think. So we get this guy in there. He's probably, I'll say mid 30s. Um, get him in. Family pretty much rushed him to the hospital as quick as they found him, and it was a heroin overdose. So we Narcan this guy, get lines in him, get him on the monitor, doing vitals. We're ready for anything, and Narcan works, as Narcan should.
Yeah.
So he's still pretty out of it. He's groggy. We're giving him oxygen. We're bagging him for a little bit. His oxygen when he came in on the monitor was like 28.
Jesus Christ.
So this guy was circling the drain, super close. And so I'm 1-to-1 watching this guy, and he starts coming to a little bit more and more. And I'm watching him. He's starting to become verbal with me, and I'm able to have a conversation with him. But he's super lethargic, falling in and out of sleep. And so I'm just there charting, watching him, watching his vitals. Everything's looking all right. And then he just sits up out of nowhere, looks me straight in the eyes, and he goes, "All right, big dog, I'm gonna head out now." And I was just like, "What?" Like that caught me so off guard, and
I
it
mean,
was
like,
it was a lot.
the homeboy straight
Like,
like.
all right, this is happening.
Yeah, he's like, all right, I'm done overdosing. I am done with my care. I am out of here. Like, did he like
Yeah.
just AMA or did he just elope or what?
So he did technically AMA. And it's sad because that aspect of it also happens a lot. There's technically not a legal reason we can keep him. The guy's not like, suicidal or something. It was
Yeah,
a
you can't put him on
accidental
hold.
overdose
Yeah.
on, a unfortunate recreational drug that's out there.
I wouldn't call
Um,
heroin a recreational drug. I think it's just the
that's
pollutant.
how
That's
some
how.
people are using
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. I mean, a lot of people are using it as fucking recreational drug because they can't
But
fucking.
yeah, he ended up like I made sure I tried to talk this guy into staying. He didn't want to. So
Oh,
he did end up leaving. But I at least like was able to convince him to have somebody come pick him up and let me see him get in their car to make sure at least somebody is with him. God forbid something else does happen.
gets in
So
the car and does more fucking heroin. It's like, hey, you want to do more heroin? Yeah, nah, just got discharged from the hospital. Looking for a high.
I don't know.
Jesus fucking Christ. Oh,
But yeah,
man.
but that saying just it's become that inside joke. It just stuck with me. It's like, all right, big dog, I'm gonna head out
Big
now.
dog. I'm gonna head out now. It's like that
And he was
SpongeBob
kind. He
meme.
was so kind about it too.
Well, that's good. It's like the best kind of OD is the one that wakes up and is nice to you, because everyone else,
It does not start swinging.
yeah, doesn't start swinging, doesn't start puking and swinging, doesn't be like, I want to get the fuck out of here. I'm like, oh man, well, shit. I mean, oh,
Majority of
actually,
the time, they either resent you or they just,
they hate you.
or
They're
they're
like,
actively dying, and
yeah,
you like no matter what you do, you're fighting to keep them alive.
yeah, and you're like doing all
Yeah.
this, and they're so like, oh, like they're so fucking like pissed off at you or something, and they're like, oh, you like fucking ruined my hires. I'm just like, bro, you're fucking half dead.
Yeah.
Like, thanks for coming to ER. There was actually one time I was working at the hospital you guys work at, and this lady OD'd in our parking lot, like where I park at least. I used to park in the parking garage at that hospital, but she OD'd and I was on shift. I don't think Dan you were there. because they called the code
This sounds
purple.
familiar though.
Yeah, it was
Keep going because
yeah,
this sounds
yeah.
familiar.
So they called a code purple overhead into that ER parking lot, and I was like, why the fuck is someone like code purple in the parking lot? I guess someone passed out. So I walk out there, and it was uh my coworker, like one of my good friends, Art, and then like another coworker of ours, Cleon. We're just kind of walking out there, and we just see one of the nurses like full sprint back to us with a fucking wheelchair, right? And some knocked out lady, like she just looks unconscious, and we're like trying to find a fucking room to put her in. So I'm thinking we're going into our trauma room. Trauma. It's 32, room 32, and then fucking end up going to a smaller room. And I remember this lady was wearing like she was unconscious. We started bagging her. She's wearing a Michael Kors jacket, and I took my Raptors. I just cut through all that shit, and we're bagging her. People are like freaking the fuck out. People are like draw Narcan. Someone draw Narcan, and everyone's like get ready for intubation. And then actually, one of the doctors, I don't want to mention his name because I don't think he wants to be publicly noticed, but he's a young doctor, really good, and he's like everyone just calm down, you know just take a step back. And this lady's also like, satting in like the 60s, and she's like actively fucking braiding down and shit. And we're like trying to get her back. We actually thought we were gonna intubate her, but we didn't. We ended up putting her on BiPAP. She kind of came around after the Narcan, and she was like, "Oh, what happened?" And we're like, "Well, you overdosed in our parking lot." And I think that, to be honest, I think that's a thing. I think like people actually overdose in hospital parking lots so people can find them and give them Narcan and then they can thing.
Yeah, near where it's like safe and have a potential of getting help.
Exactly, and I think when I was bringing, we had a conversation about that. Excuse me, you want to? Excuse me, that was a burp. Definitely
My
keep
God.
that in.
Barbaric.
Super barbaric.
Like we said in the first one, this is a one-cut thing.
Yeah, it's a one-cut
you
thing.
know?
Whatever happens.
My audio
happens.
is better today, so
Oh, we never know. He might cut out like later on.
We'll at least get like 90% of Dan's audio.
Yeah, at least 99. 90% sounds good. But no, yeah, a lot of people like to overdose in hospital parking lots because they're gonna be found. Allegedly. All right.
Yeah, they think.
They
So,
think. There was actually a story. I mean, it didn't happen to any of us, but there's a story, a news article about some lady who drove to the hospital and they found her dead body in the hospital parking lot in her car like 3 days later. And then I think people were like, I think the civilian side, people were like, oh, they interviewed the family actually. And they were like, oh yeah, like she drove to the hospital thinking someone's gonna come out and get her. No one ever goes out to like actively search for fucking people in distress in the hospital parking lot. Not even
no,
security does that.
we have plenty of stuff to focus on
Yeah.
inside the hospital. We can't be going out and looking for it.
I was gonna say only sometimes security might make rounds or something, but
Ever
But
so
that's
slightly.
hours in between.
Yeah.
And that's only if they have spare time.
Exactly. I mean, yeah, no, I think the family was quoting that. That's like, oh yeah, someone like they were speaking for the dead person. Like, how can you speak for a dead person? Number one, they're dead. Number two, why do you think someone would be able to come out and actively look for you in a fucking, unless you call and be like, hey, I'm having problem in my car, come get me. Then we'll send a fucking team at you. But no, this lady just died in her car. I don't think, maybe it was like a cardiac issue or something, but she died in her car. They found her 3 days later, and this coroner's thing in the hospital was like, I think they were trying to sue the hospital because they didn't do anything.
was that one an overdose type deal, or was it like
It
some
was
sort of
actually like some medical
coronary event?
Yeah, some coronary event, or just like
So like they probably having like chest pain, drove to the hospital and just made it there.
just made it there. Yeah, parked, and that was it.
and that was it.
Too weak to get out or something. I mean, it's unfortunate. That sucks, but at the end of the day, and it sounds really bad, but I personally do not go outside looking for people stuck in their car who need help. It's just not what we do. I have enough fucking patience to look after, and plus, I'm just a tech. I had to look over half the ER. We're gonna help out the nurses and all that, but it's just like, yeah, I don't actively go looking for people.
And
Now-
side
now
note
when
to
I get
that,
a-
I'm sure EMTALA, like people will probably bring that up, making the argument like, yes, we're responsible for the people on our property, but only if we know
Yeah.
that they're there.
Yeah, exactly. If I don't know you're there, like, then I'm not gonna kind of look for you. I mean, even with the people who come in and check in and they wait God knows how long because we're busy in the back and they're getting pissed off in the front and they AMA, and they actually have some sort of issue, and we're trying to find. They don't not AMA. Sorry, they elope, so they don't tell us they're leaving. They just leave. Bro, if you fucking have some kind of episode outside, I'm not gonna be able to find you because I don't know where the fuck you are.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many times where they're like, "Hey, Kevin, go outside, look for this patient." I'm like, okay. Look outside, nowhere to be found. I'm like, they could be dead in the bush.
Yeah, they're gone.
Yeah, they're gone. Now yeah, they're gone. Hopefully they made it home safe. Some of these people want to freaking elope or AMA, and they actually have something wrong with them. Like they have critical lab values or something, and you're like, okay, you want to fucking go? You could die. But
Yeah, that's the crappy part of like when it was busy. We'd have people with like 4 or 5 hour waiting times just in the waiting area, just to get
With
inside.
actual serious problems that needed
Yeah.
attention.
oh yeah, there were direct admits from the waiting room to floors because we just were so bad. And that was during the last COVID wave. But
Yeah.
I mean, it was pretty fucking bad. But yeah, some of these people just wanted to leave, and they're like, I don't like waiting. I'm like, I have to go to work tomorrow. I'm like, you're not gonna be able to live till tomorrow, dude. Or you come in, you waste our resources, and then you leave, and you just, people don't know that you have to pay for everything after if you AMA. Like, I don't know. But anyways, Jack, any fun stories you have? Getting back to it.
Going back to the overdoses and car stuff, I am still a fairly new ER nurse. I've only been doing it about 2-ish years, a little bit longer than that, but I am responsible occasionally on our assignment sheet when we have the shifts come up for doing meal breaks and things. I typically don't
That's how it's
cover
written too. Meal breaks and
Yeah.
things.
meal breaks
What,
and
really?
things,
Meal breaks and things, Jack.
and things, because if you're
Hmm.
busy, you're doing things.
Oh, you're doing a lot of things.
But yeah, I don't typically cover the charge nurse because I don't have the experience, and I don't cover triage because I don't have the nursing experience. Obviously, I've been doing EMS for 7 years, but I'm not qualified enough, or however they want to designate it, to do that.
Yeah.
But it was a fairly slow night, and
Sorry.
that's where it comes in. Like, the charge nurse is like, "Oh yeah, go get the nurse out and triage, cover them for their break, and then do the rest of everyone else because there's no one out there." I'm like, "All right, that's actually fair. I can sit out there for half an hour and make sure nothing happens."
Yeah.
I walk over. He's like, "Yeah, I just put this patient in this nurse's assignment. The next one is probably, I think it was the nurse taking care of 36, 37 that night."
Uh-huh.
It's like, "Yeah, the next one can go into 37. After that, it's on you." And I'm like, "Perfect." So he goes on break. I'm sitting there for 5-6 minutes. All of a sudden, this lady comes bursting through the door, runs up to the registration people who are sitting right next to me in their own little area, and she's like, "Oh my God, my friend, he's in the car. He overdosed." I'm like, "Ah, fuck! Of course that would happen the first time I did this."
It's your triage
So,
cherry pop, man.
right as that happened, I had one of the techs, I think it was Jose, but I'm not sure. But he comes walking around the corner. I'm like, "Hey, go grab a stretcher. I'm gonna run outside for an overdose." And I get out there. Thankfully, the guy's still breathing, but he's not answering me. So I do his sternal rub, and he's like, "What are you doing that for, man?" I'm like,
You're
"You need to
fucking
talk to me.
you're actively
You're
dying, bro."
overdosing." Like,
Jesus Christ.
you're breathing 6 to 8 a minute. Your pupils are pinpoint. You're not responding to me. Like, "You're coming inside of the hospital." He's like, "No, I'm not." I'm like, "Well, you don't have a choice."
I don't want to get treated for almost dying on drugs. Sorry about that.
Like, I can't leave you out here in the parking lot to die, dude. You're coming inside.
Yeah. Goddamn. So what else happened? You guys treat him accordingly, or did he die, or?
Yeah, we didn't Narcan him in the car because he was still breathing, and then when I did the stone rub, he actually started responding. So,
Okay, that's good.
threw him on the stretcher, took him back to a room, Narcaned him, which fixed it, obviously, but
Yay, Narcan.
then you have to observe them for a couple hours to make sure they don't relapse or re-overdose, because that's actually a concern, especially with some of the fentanyl-laced heroin and some of the stuff going around.
Yeah.
Is the half-life for the Narcan can be shorter than the half-life for the heroin, so The Narcan can wear off and they can go right back to not breathing again.
Oh,
Yep.
that's not good. You guys remember that? Speaking of Narcan, actually, remember that one? I don't know if you guys saw it, but it was a deputy in San Diego who OD'd. I mean, they allegedly OD'd.
From
And
touching.
what's up?
Because he came in contact. Was that the one who came in
Yeah,
contact?
came in
with
contact, and
The,
Yeah,
mean,
I know that story.
there was such a what do you call it? No,
So yeah,
that deputy allegedly OD'd on fentanyl by touching it or something of the sort. But they actually ruled it as it wasn't an OD because they didn't find anything in his blood. And like the San Diego Sheriff's Department made this whole entire promotional video about it. And then like people like Prep Medic, I think Dan, you know Prep Medic and Jack.
yeah, big YouTube
Yep.
guy.
Yeah, big YouTube guy. He's actually really good. Fucking, I'm gonna link his shit down in the show notes.
He's got some pretty good content.
Yeah, what's it called? His content's fucking A1. If you ever want to become like a pre-hospital care provider, like a paramedic or EMT, his shit's pretty good. But going back to the OD, yeah, this guy he broke down like everything that happened, like the fentanyl exposure and all that stuff, and it just like turned into this like controversy of like this guy didn't really OD. And like in the video, he sees like you see the deputy like crying. He's like, "Yeah, I OD'd," and then all this shit, and then it actually wasn't an OD, and they still went on and published it, which is pretty crazy.
I mean that's more for the awareness than anything, because
Yeah.
honestly, they don't have the medical expertise to say no, he wasn't overdosing.
Yeah, exactly.
But they did everything appropriately. That
they gave him 12
they
milligrams
thought-
of Narcan in 30 minutes.
well, that's a problem with training. That's not
Yeah.
necessarily a problem with that one incident.
Oh yeah, no, that's just
And
training.
I have stuff to say on that, but we'll save that later.
No, you can feel free to say it. I mean, shit, it happens. I mean, the thing is, it's like we're never gonna know what we deal with, especially. I mean, none of us here are law enforcement, but even in the ER, when we have people coming in, we don't know what they have, what exactly is in their pockets. We can definitely get a needle stick or, have some type of overdose ourselves. But you just got to be mindful. I mean, this deputy was checking it out, and he wasn't, because you would have to take so much in. I think it was. I don't think even it was a skin exposure. I think it was just him like breathing it in. And you have to take so much of that. And in Prep Medic, again, he really breaks it down in the video how much you have to take in to even start feeling the effects of a fentanyl overdose. And then he also like shows the fact of like the driver was not overdosing, and the driver was in possession of said fentanyl. So it's just like this whole entire controversy. I mean, to be honest, I kind of forgot how we got into it. Oh, Narcan. But yeah, no, they Narcan that deputy like 3 times, 4 milligrams each in the nostril. Was pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
I don't think it was Prep Medic, but I do remember watching a video on that specific incident, and it was like dermal exposure. It would have to take such a long period of time. It couldn't have been. It wasn't inhalation, and the deputy was handling it before he had gloves on, until the I guess his training officer, FTO, was like, "Hey, be careful, that's fentanyl," and then he had the reaction.
I think, to be honest, the him pointing out that it's like, oh, hey, this is fentanyl, caused some type of like psychosomatic anxiety. Just like, oh, I'm handling fentanyl, I gotta be careful. His heart rate started. He had a panic attack. Is what basically Prep Medic. I can't say that Prep Medic was trying to say, but yeah,
nothing against the deputy, but
yeah, it was pretty crazy. I mean, at the end of the day, like I would do the same shit. I mean, I think the first time I had to deal with a COVID patient, man, I had some anxiety pumping up, man. I was like, oh shit, this guy is COVID positive. Nowadays, I don't give a fuck. I'm just there. But like initially, it's like, bro, you do have some sort of like psychosomatic response where it's like, oh, anxiety starts to build up. You're like, oh shit, let me just be extra careful. Your senses are like heightened and all that fun stuff.
What's that? It's that unknown. Like you don't know, so you kind of freak out a little bit about it. Now that like exactly that COVID comment, like in the beginning, we're all hyper vigilant, like making sure every single thing we can do to be safe was being done, and now we're still doing those safety measures, but we're going into it with a completely different mindset because we have such a better understanding of it.
Yeah, exactly. And well, some people have a better understanding of it. Some people still. We're not gonna get into that though. Questionable understanding of said disease that wiped out a good chunk of the planet. But fuck it. But dude, no, these I mean, if we're gonna talk about COVID, in all honesty, I do have one story. Is
Just
we
one for COVID.
we
That's
had
it.
I have a shit ton. I mean, to be honest, there's some stories, man, where it was like, bro, it sucks, and I don't want to tell it. I mean, there's one that rocked my world where yeah, I got a
You don't
little.
have to talk about it.
Yeah, I was pretty sad for a while, but no, we had this guy come in, and I think it was prior to my shift, and he's a young guy, like pretty young, mid 30s, um, but he signed a DNI, like prior to, I think while talking to the doctor, I think he says like, I don't want to be intubated. You can do CPR, but not intubate. And then what's it called? He started a DSAT. He was COVID positive, and like I can like during my whole entire shift, I can literally see this guy actively turning pale, and he's a pretty big guy. And he's like on BiPAP, and then he was trying to take off his BiPAP. Excuse me. Oh, see, burps all over the place. But no, he's trying to take off his BiPAP, and what's it called? We were trying to keep him on it. We couldn't restrain him because he was still like able to
Quote
make
unquote with it. Yeah.
conscious decisions. Yeah. So, uh, I know. I remember when the respiratory therapist. He was like, it was getting bad to the point where it's like he was sitting in like the 80s and it was going down to the 70s. And the RT was like, hey, like, man, you got to keep this on or you're going to die. And then the doctor comes up and he's like, hey, can we please intubate you? Like, you're working yourself to death, basically. Like, his workload of breathing it's starting to take over him. And I remember I was just like looking at him. I was trying to say like my piece. I was like, hey, man, like, come on, let's just get you back on the BiPAP and we'll get you breathing. And it's like, come on, we got to intubate you. Let us intubate you. And he was like, no, I don't want it. No, no, no. And then we ended up calling his family. And then, like, this is prior to us letting visitors back into the hospital. But we called his family. Like, hey, like, this isn't good. Like, he's refusing to put the BiPAP on. And the nurse, who's a pretty good friend of mine, he was like, hey, your family wants to talk to you. I think it's time for you to say goodbye. And we're trying to be honest, we're trying to use scare tactics to get this guy to put his BiPAP on or to let us intubate him. And then, yeah, so the nurse had the phone. He's like, hey, talk to your family. And the family was trying to talk to him. And then, what's it called? They're like, he gave the phone back to us because he like became altered just like that. Still couldn't intubate. So we were, actually the family asked to come in and we made that, special exemption. And the family came in. And literally the brother, I think, was trying to talk to the patient. And I was like, oh shit. I looked at the monitor. I was like, fuck, this guy's in the 30s. And I was like, hey, doc, he's in the 30s. He's braiding down. So he actively braided down. And then we coded him in front of the family and kept going for a good like 15, 20 minutes. And unfortunately, like, he died. So I know that's a pretty sad story, but it was a crazy one because this guy, I actively saw this guy die throughout shift, and it was really fucking sad. And the family was crying and all that shit, but I mean, COVID was a fucking crazy monster, and I mean, I just wish we could have intubated the guy. Even then, we didn't even know if he was gonna make it or not. But it was bad.
Yeah, COVID. I mean, what? There's too much we can say about COVID. Fuck that guy, right?
Fuck that guy. COVID, if I ever see you. Oh, wait, I dealt with fucking COVID. Fuck that shit. He kicked my ass too. I was gonna be like, I'm gonna fight you. No, I lost.
COVID, if I ever
I think
see
it
you,
got all of us.
Yeah, I got all of it.
kick your ass. No, just kidding. Other way around.
Oh, no, yeah. It was pretty fucking bad. But, I mean, it's like the amount of people we lost during COVID, especially like just my tiny little hospital. Like, it was a lot. It was the amount of people I lost while working with you guys. It was like 6 times the amount. Like, it was a lot.
It's a lot, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, the thing is, for like me and like the ER team in my hospital, a lot of us were on the code team. And basically, if you're ER, you can go to codes that are not in the ER, even in the ER, but go to ICU, med surg, DOU, or telemetry. But yeah, no, there was so many codes, and it sucked because you're just like. I remember I was on my like 6th day in a row, and I heard a code blue, and I like was not even clocked in yet, and I was like, just over it. It sucked.
Stay tuned for that COVID-19 pandemic episode.
What happened when we first got COVID?
It's probably going to be a series.
Yeah, no, exactly. No, but overall, I mean, it was pretty shit. But anyways, here's
talk
next
to
up.
anyone in healthcare; they'll have at least one story of something similar to that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's to see a lot of people ask you if they're going to die. It kind of, I would say, fucks you up a little bit. I mean, it's like
Having to look them in the face and say, "Yes,
or like
that's
you have to
something that takes a
lie
lot
and
out
you're
of
like,
you."
hey, we're trying the best we can. It's like, come on, just put the mask back on. And it's like, we're gonna end up intubating you. And then once we see, my thing now is like my conceptualization, like how I conceptualize like intubation, especially after COVID. It's like, if you have COVID and we're intubating you, you have a 50-50 chance of getting out off it. Sometimes those
Yeah. Sometimes even less, depending on what else is going on with them.
Yeah, exactly, right? So it's like, how it's like, like the guy was asking me, like, am I gonna die? Not that patient I talked about, but another patient was like asking me, am I going to die? And then, one of the nurses and I were like, no, we're gonna try our best. We're doing our best. You just need to relax, so and so. We got him transferred to ICU, but he ended up dying. Fucking another patient that I had, some old guy, he was like A&O times 3. When I left shift, I came back the next night, he was dead. Body was still in the ER. We ran out of fucking space in the morgue, so we had to use the fucking freezer trucks. Have you guys ever been in a freezer truck?
No,
Really?
I haven't personally.
I've never been to our actual morgue. I've only been in the freezer truck.
Oh yeah, no. So
Oh.
you understand the freezer truck shit part?
We're the opposite.
I've been
Yeah.
to both, but the freezer trucks suck because they were just bodies lined up, like bodies. It just looks so
Yeah,
eerie.
you go in there and it's just racks, like almost like bunk beds up, all along either one or both sides, depending on, I guess, what truck you got. But
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it was ours is like a giant like freight truck, like where you put cargo in, but except this time it was a freezer truck filled with dead bodies. I think we had like over 30 dead bodies at that time I went in there. And I was like, oh, this is nice. It's like that scene from The Walking Dead in the beginning, like all the
That's
bodies.
exactly what I was just thinking.
Yeah,
of.
exactly. That's exactly what I felt. Except number one, I was like fucking scared shitless because there's just so many fucking bodies. Like, I've never seen a mass. To be honest, that was a mass grave. That's an equivalent to a modern mass grave in fucking, the U.S. I was like, dude, ugh. Just thinking about that sucks.
So
well,
much
not to get into this
sadness.
too much, but you'll hear the COVID deniers and all that. Oh, this isn't really happening and all that. I'm like, well, we don't have any incentive to lie to anybody. I'm not getting paid besides the paycheck I get for, dealing with everything that comes with the ER.
Yeah, exactly.
And like, we lived through this. You're more than welcome to come and experience, a shift in the ER or ICU or anywhere. I'm sure anywhere would be glad to take you just to show you how wrong you are.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we're not gonna get too in depth with the deniers of said COVID, but yeah, no, it was pissing me off that people didn't believe it was real. My nephew didn't believe it was real, and I came home from work and he said that shit, and I was like, I never went from 0 to 100 so fast. Maybe it was just because I work like 5 days in a row, but I was like, I did have a stern word with him. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? So many people just died during my last shift. Like, are you, like, people need to know that it doesn't matter. I don't care what your fucking beliefs are, but you're not there where we are. Like, you don't experience it. I mean, now it's better. It's cool because people are getting vaccinated to an extent. Jack.
I feel like there's been a slight better
Hey.
understanding.
I said I'll get it, just not by, the date.
Yeah. What was that, Dad?
I feel like there's been a slight better understanding because of COVID too.
Yeah.
Of like what healthcare does have to deal with. Not that it's necessarily gotten any better, or there's still those people out there, of course, but
Yeah.
it's a little glimpse.
Yeah, it's a little glimpse, which is it gives. I wish we can really show a real portrayal about like what we do on a daily basis. Most of the time, it's pretty cool. You know, you chat up with some funny patients. You have a really sick old man, sick grandma comes from a sniff, yada yada yada. We have those occasional like really cool like traumas that come in or GSWs or stabbings or whatnot, and be like, hey, all right, cool. You know, my adrenaline's up, or you have a couple codes here and there. It's cool. But I mean, you know, the portrayal of healthcare, it's like, you know, people like to really glorify the job. It's not really that glorious. It's a lot. It's stinky. It's really stinky, especially with
It
the
does have
Yeah,
those
all those
glorious
things they
moments,
show
though.
on the TV shows, ER, Grey's Anatomy, Chicago Med, all that stuff, like the crazy mass casualty incidents and shootings and all that. Those are like you'll get those once every couple of months,
yeah,
maybe.
maybe
You know what you will deal with every shift? Someone vomiting,
someone pooping their
someone
pants.
someone pooping themselves and
Yeah,
almost getting it on you.
yeah, exactly.
Gross
That's-
medical procedures like Foley catheters, like you'll deal with that almost every shift.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
actually a good segue. I got skipping away from all that sad shit, Kevin. One of this
Yeah,
was
let's not
very
drag ourselves into sad shit.
Yeah, no more
sad
sad
shit
shit.
immediately.
Sad shit.
this one was very early on. Speaking of the vomiting, I was getting a patient to one of my rooms in my assignment, and they were in the room already, and EMS comes to talk to me, and they're like, oh, they're here for like, you know, nausea, vomiting. They're vomiting on the way a few times and this and that. And I go to walk to the room, and they already transferred them onto our ER stretcher. And I go to walk to the room. I take one step into the door, and the person is hanging over the side of the bed rail, throwing up all over the floor. And it
Oh
is
my
just
God.
splattering everywhere. And I was like, I didn't know what to do. I just kind of like stood
They
there.
dog him out.
I took a step back and I was like, I'll just let them finish, so I'm not like stuck in this
The
splash
absurdity
zone.
of the situation. I've had that happen before where it's so ridiculous. You're just like, I've trained to like shock people back to life. I've trained to pull people out of burning buildings. I've trained to cut cars around, like away from people. I wasn't trained for this. I don't know what the fuck to do.
Dude, sometimes
It's
you
like,
just don't know.
do I put my hand? Do I throw a blanket?
Like,
It's-
do I get a
you
bucket
got
for it?
me.
Like
It's over.
it's already all over the floor. Like
Yeah, it's already on the floor. He's actively vomiting. If it's not like coffee grounds or some shit, yeah, you're good. Just let him puke everything out and let him get back into bed and give him an
It's
emesis
honestly what I
pack.
had to do. I kind of just gave him a second. I threw a blanket on the floor and I was like, all right, man, let's let's get you checked out.
There was one time I was walking. Sorry, I can't even keep up. I was walking like toward our fast track triage area, and I hear someone from the back. It's like, "What are you doing, man?" And then I like turn around.
yeah, that immediately gets your attention.
I'm like, and then one of the nurses
One of
like,
your coworkers
"You re-"
just-
yeah, you're like one of the nurses like, are you really peeing right now? And this dude was just peeing right, like in like a fucking arch from his bed, laying down onto the floor, and we're just like it's already too late. I'm not gonna try to stop it. He just has to do it. And he was a drunk guy too, so it was ETOH, and he went back to bed. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? I was like, I just threw some towels on the fucking floor. I called EVS. I was like, hey, some dude peed on the floor again.
Shout out to EVS, man. Some of those people really help us out.
I know those EVS people, environmental services, are the MV fucking P's in the hospital, because we can't do our jobs without them. They're the ones who like decontaminate COVID rooms. They clean up all the shit. I mean, we try to do our best with it, but but no.
yeah, like doctors and to a lesser extent nurses get all the glory for, you know, the healthcare part of healthcare and like
Yeah.
everything that happens. But the hospital would absolutely fall apart without techs and housekeeping and secretaries and transport and all the people that stitch together everything in there. Like our job would be next to impossible.
Yeah, exactly. I think
Transport, dietary.
transport, yeah. I mean, I think that's what it is. I think people fail to see, and this is what I don't like about these like Instagram nursing influencers. Healthcare is a fucking team effort, man. Like,
Yeah, this is a team sport.
It's a team
not
fucking
you're
sport.
out by yourself.
I overheard a conversation, I think last night or the night before, while I was at shift, and it was like, you know, there's no independent ER nursing. It's a team fucking effort. And that was like, I like you. You're cool. It was one of the travelers too. I mean, you can't do everything by yourself, especially in healthcare, especially in the ER where we're from, because you're gonna overload yourself and someone's gonna die. That's why it's a team effort. That's why you have your nurses, your techs, your doctors, your PAs, your unit secretaries, EVS, transport. All that works continuously together like a well-oiled machine, and that's where
I
we.
was just gonna say that.
Well, I said it, and
Well
you
oiled.
thought it. Yeah, it's a well-oiled machine.
I thought it. You said it.
But the thing is, sometimes we don't have those people. I mean, we have the doctors, the nursing staff, and the techs. Sometimes EVS, they're short-staffed too, or transporters don't come because they're short-staffed and they have like 10 freaking transports to do, and then it's like,
We have our transport at night still to this day has a single person on at night,
yeah, no, we have a
and
single person too
it
at night.
really kicks their ass, and they're such a nice person too, and they do an amazing job with it, but
Yeah.
it's tough.
No, yeah, I mean that's a great thing. I love transport for who they are, and we have some really dope transporters, and we have some really not so dope transporters. But I mean, hey, I don't mind transporting, upstairs once in a while. I just don't like doing it on a daily basis. That's what I used to do, and that's how all of us met. So, or I mean, Dan.
I don't have a single problem taking someone upstairs. The problem is the amount of time I spend getting that person up there and getting them out of the bed and settled takes away from my other patients down in the ER.
Yeah, exactly, and it's like, uh, I don't know. That's a whole entire story
Like,
within itself. But
even if I don't have things to do or really patients, if they're my last patient, I'll take them upstairs and I'll walk back. Surprised you have a new patient.
well, that always
Yeah.
happens, man. You're always gonna come back to a new patient. I remember I went up with a nurse. Actually, it was at the Jersey hospital, and we came back down, and he had an active patient in respiratory distress, and he's like, "What the fuck happened?" And they're like innovating him already. He's like, "Wait, when did I get this fucking patient?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, he came in respiratory distress. You had a free room, so ta-da." Poor Steve. If you ever listen to this podcast, your chili chips surprise was amazing. But anyways,
Yeah, I did that the other day. I walked from so I just discharged a patient. I went to the room, gave them their paperwork, answered their questions and stuff, showed them the way out, walked with them towards the exit to show them.
Yeah.
Charted real quick, literally not even like a minute. Charted that they, their dispo and that they left and everything. Walked back to the room to go like clean it up. And there's a new
Already
patient
another
there.
patient in there.
And I was so confused. I was like, wait a minute, who's this?
This
like,
room was just empty 2
hey.
minutes ago.
I was gone for 30 seconds. Well, congratulations.
It was literally when I walked away from the room and then came back to it.
So why'd you go to the ER today? Oh, mechanical slip and fall. Okay. I don't think patients know what a mechanical slip and fall is, but
Yeah, I tend not to take people upstairs because, like I said, I will walk back to a new patient, and I was passed a black cloud from someone I rode with in EMS. So if she ever watches this podcast, you know who you are. I hate you.
let's talk about what a black cloud is. If people, I'm a black cloud for sure. I know Jack, you are one as well.
Absolutely.
Dan, you,
Occasional gray cloud.
yeah, you're original. You're
have my
okay.
days.
You're great.
I'm a mix.
But Dan, if you want to explain what a black cloud is, for those who do not know.
Perfect example, because so we were having a great shift the other day. Not great, but it's a decent day for how the ER goes. And then 7 o'clock comes around and Jack shows up, and
Yeah, I roll in the door. I
triage
take
fills
everyone
up
with
with
me.
patients, and then a few codes I think came in too. As soon as Jack got there, man, black cloud, everything bad just
Yep.
starts happening.
I mean, yeah, you're fucking
I
shit.
bring all of the hard work with me.
Yeah, well, hey, they have their work cut out with them, and actually, there is this one doctor who she's amazing. She's young too. She's a trauma junkie. Her and I got along really well after I met her, but she's a black cloud as well. We when her and I work together, it's just double the chaos, and it's been known that we're both black clouds and or grim reapers or whatever stereotypical bad luck vibe you want to throw at that one healthcare worker. That's how it is, and it gets pretty bad sometimes. You're like, huh?
We have one with us, but I absolutely love it. So we have one doc who, not that everything bad happens, but only with her have I had some of the most complex and like out there cases and difficult. But like one of those ones where you like love every moment of it because you're learning new things and you're
Oh
like
yeah.
actually helping a lot and stuff. But only with her have I had these like types of cases.
Yeah, no, I mean that's
Which doc is that?
Yeah, I'll tell you later.
yeah, we gotta
Alright.
save the names, you know. No, I mean, yeah,
First letter or yeah.
A great one to work with.
it's a great doctor. I don't think have I worked with that doctor before?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't have too many new doctors, so
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
hey.
no, not many.
Well, and the funny thing is that you night shift for our old hospital, my old hospital, you're the hospital you guys are at. There's one doctor and a PA. My hospital now, there's one doctor, no PA. But there's also one doctor in the morning. But they have like 8 to 10 hour shifts, and then the next doctor comes in. But the hospital in Jersey, they have like 3 to 4 doctors in the morning time, right? If I remember correctly, like it's a good chunk of
with a
them.
rolling shift, like
Yeah.
you'll have a doctor and APA at all times.
Yeah, exactly. Of course,
But like 7 or 6:30, whenever their shift is, you'll have the morning or the day shift PA and the day shift doc roll in. They'll take patients from the offgoing doctor. They'll see whoever new came in, and then as the day progresses and supposedly gets busier, they'll add, 2 or 3 more PAs, 2 or 3 more doctors on top of that.
Yeah. I mean, that's a lot of doctors. I mean, that would be overkill for us, in some sense, because we're a 25 bed ER.
Yeah, we're about double that.
We're double our size.
It'll
But we
be a
have
bit
trauma
more.
rooms. Oh, wait, you have trauma rooms too. I remember those.
Yeah, we do. We don't run that many traumas, I should say, because we're not a trauma center.
Yeah, exactly.
But we do have the
Technically.
capability.
Yeah, I mean, I think every hospital has to be technically equipped to run a trauma, unless you're like one of those
We
weird.
do
Like,
have those
not
occasional.
necessarily.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, just ask Vince about pulling some guy out of the back of a muddy Jeep.
ew.
Oh.
He'll tell you all about that.
Oh my gosh,
If we ever get him on.
Get him on the podcast. Have him call in or something. Be like, hey, yeah, I want to hear that story. That's a pretty crazy story. But I mean, hey,
Yeah,
that's
he ended up wearing pet scrubs the rest of the night because he literally was covered head to toe in mud.
At least it wasn't poop.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've had
always a plus.
I mean, I've gotten peed on before, but that's I think that's gonna be for another story time. But I think we're hitting our 50-minute mark. I think that's a good time to end it. I'm out of alcohol once again. I think I finished midway through the podcast.
Speaking of which, like, quick little side note: what are you guys drinking? Because like every week when you do this, we like have a drink because we're hanging out, have a drink with the boys.
Yeah.
What are you guys drinking tonight?
I was drinking Crown Royal Vanilla with Coke as a mixer. It's empty now, but
Good.
refill that afterwards.
Jack, you got one of those not your daddy's root beers?
Not your daddy's root beer.
I have one on standby because I thought we were gonna go longer.
No, I think keeping it short.
I'm drinking my classic SoCo and Dr Pepper.
Ooh, so cool. I gotta check that out. No,
Doing
I think
a beer tonight.
it's
Got
what
a
kind of beer?
Bonesaw Brewing Company squeezed double India pale ale. Not bad.
Does it taste well? Good? Well, wow.
I mean, I've never been a fan of the real hoppy stuff, but it's
Hmm.
it's definitely has a hoppy flavor, but it's pretty good.
I've been actually enjoying like hazy IPAs. I got pretty fucked up with a couple of my boys from the academy the other night.
A couple of days ago.
Was it a couple days ago? I know it was like Friday. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, yeah, I know. I was working.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You
I
were
was
Snapchatting me.
Snapchatting you like drunk like.
3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah,
You're in the
dude, it
back of a truck driving around.
No, I was in my car. I was. My friend was driving the car, and he was like trying to.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You weren't driving,
I
but
wasn't
you were in the
driving.
back doing the Snapchats.
I was doing the wee woos. I was in. Yeah. No, it was a fun time. But no, I want to keep the podcast just a little bit short. We're under an hour. As we grow and put more episodes out this season, I guess we're doing seasons according to Apple Podcasts. So, we'll keep growing, and so as we have a lot more to talk about. We actually have a list of like topics, and that doesn't include guests that we can invite. And there's some people that we all know that we can invite, and as we continue to grow, I mean, hey, thanks for listening in all honesty. So thank you for supporting us. But in all honesty, guys, any last words before we sign off?
Thank you guys for listening. Come on back.
All right. So if you guys want to find us on any social media, you can find us on Instagram at TNL Podcast, TNL Podcast. There you can catch any updates when we post a podcast. Also, find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and on YouTube, all under the Nightlife Podcast. All right, guys. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.
Take it easy, guys.